Hey guys, we're on to lesson 2 in our time unit. Today we're looking at something where we use AM and PM to describe time. So AM would be the time that happens before lunch, which most of you are probably watching this video in the AM. Now when we leave the lunchroom, depends on whose homeroom you're in, you're leaving around noon. So anytime after noon would be known as PM. Like when you go to recess would be PM. When you go to activity, that would be PM. When you leave school would be PM. But when you come to school, that would be AM. So we're going to use AM and PM because we work off of 12 hours. And after 12 hours, it switches. So we're going to look at, sometimes it's real important, if you're talking about 7, well, is that 7 a.m. or 7 p.m.? So you have to have that at the end to kind of decide which part of the day you're talking about. So the times that Hannah eats breakfast, lunch, and dinner are shown on the digital clocks. Show the times that Hannah eats breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the analog clocks. All right, so we're trying to look and see. We have 7, 12, 15, and 5:30. So if she's eating breakfast, and these are pretty much in the same order. They don't tell you that, but they are. We're not kind of matching here. So breakfast is going to be at 7 a.m. We're going to go ahead and put a.m. there. Now to draw 7 a.m., your minute hand is going to be reaching out and touching right there on the 12, because that's o'clock, and that's supposed to be right at the 12, but it is hard for me to see that. And then your hour hand is going to be exactly on the 7, so you don't have to reach out and touch it, but it should be pointing right at the 7. Lunch is 12:15, so 15-minute mark is right there on the 3, so we'll reach out and touch it because that would be our minutes. And 12:15, your hour hand is going to be just a little tiny bit past that 12 because we've already gone past 12 o'clock 15 minutes. So that hour hand is going to be moving, but it moves way slower than the minute hand. Then dinner is at 5:30. 30-minute mark is right here at the 6, because if you counted from here on around to here, that would be 30 minutes. You can probably make yours look a little straighter than mine. And then 5:30, well, the hour hand is going to be halfway between 5 and the next hour, because we are halfway around the clock. So it makes sense that the hour hand will be halfway between 5 and 6, like so. Okay, so that's where your hands should be on your clock. Oh, let's go ahead and add. This would be 12:15 p.m. and this is 5:30 p.m. Okay, you can always pause it if you need to. So we're fixing to turn the page and move on to the next. Remember, if it's on my paper, it's on your paper, and you can pause at any time if you need to. All right, now let's see what's going on the other page. For a day in December in New York City, sunrise is at 7:15 and sunset is at 4:30. Goodness gracious. Is sunrise at 7:15 a.m. or p.m.? Is sunset at 4:30 a.m. or p.m.? Show the times on the clock. How can you show AM and PM on the number line? All right, so if we have, we'll start here with this one. We'll say this is our 7:15. Well, if it is sunrise at 7:15, that's in the morning, so of course that's going to be AM. The hands on the clock. That minute hand is going to be reaching out and touching the 3 because that's your 15-minute mark. And 7 is your hour. It's just going to be a little bit past 7 because we've already gone from here to here, 15 minutes. So that hour hand's going to have moved just a little bit toward that 8. Not a lot, but a little bit. Then 4:30, which is awful early, but sometimes that happens in those northern states like Chicago too. I've been to Chicago when the time changes and it is dark at 4:30. Whew. All right, so you have 4:30, and that's in the evenings. Of course, that's going to be p.m. So 30 minutes would be right there touching that 6, because that's halfway around, and half of 60 is 30. 4:30, since it's halfway, that'll be halfway between 4 and 5, so somewhere in that ballpark. Now, 12 midnight. You should be snoozing away at 12 midnight. 12 noon, you're finishing up lunch and we're headed back to the room during that time. And then you're going back to 12 midnight. So this is from 12 midnight to 12 midnight is this number line. So 7:15 a.m., if this is midnight, that will be 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. is here, so 7:15 is going to be just a little bit past that. We'll label that 7:15 a.m. Scoot that up just a little bit. Okay. This line's a little bit bigger because that's halfway, so that would be 6. So you would know that was 7 o'clock. 7:15 is just a little bit past that. Then 12 noon, well, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. 4:30 would be halfway between, so 4:30 is going to be halfway between those marks. It's halfway between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. So that is 4:30 p.m. Okay? So, and then we're going to do SR for sunrise and SS for sunset, because that's going to help us in just a minute. Is sunrise after midnight or afternoon? Well, it's right here, and what comes right before it? Midnight. So, sunrise is after midnight. Okay? Then sunset, which is right here, is that before midnight or before noon? So does this come before noon or before midnight? Exactly, it comes before midnight. If you're at sunset, the next thing to come is midnight. So that happens before midnight. Okay. And then it says to write the times as AM and PM, which we did up here. We're just going to rewrite it. Sunrise, we said, was at 7:15 a.m. And sunset is at 4:30 p.m. Okay. All right, let's scoot up to the top and look at this right quick before we move on. Midnight is 12 o'clock at night. You hopefully do not see midnight because you should be snoozing away at that time. Noon, which you do see, is 12 o'clock in the daytime, and that's usually around the time we're leaving the lunchroom. AM is the time after midnight and before noon. So that's whenever you're snoozing away before lunch. And PM is afternoon and before midnight. So that's after lunch until you're snoozing away at midnight. All right, now let's look at Roy. Roy reads a book before he goes to bed at 8 o'clock. Does Roy read the book at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m.? on the number line show the time that Roy is reading. So, if he's reading a book, hopefully he's not reading that book before bed at 8 a.m. That would mean he would be nocturnal. Nocturnal means you sleep during the day and you're up at night. And he's not a bat. He's a little boy right here. So we know he's not reading his book at 8 a.m. before he goes to bed. It would be more like he would read it at what time? Exactly, 8 p.m. So he's getting snuggled up in his bed. Well, actually, it looks like he's got a desk in his room that he's reading a story before he goes to bed. So 8 p.m., well, here's noon. So 8 p.m. is going to be over here in this area. 8 a.m. would be on this side. We won't stay out of there. So here's noon. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 p.m. is going to be right here. Okay, it'll be before midnight. So it's between noon and midnight. Closer to midnight, though. If you see on the number line, this dot's closer to midnight than it is noon. What part of the day describes a.m. time? Now remember, where'd our piece of paper go? Right here describes a.m. time. It's after midnight and before noon. So all you got to do is rewrite that information right here. Get my cord out of the way there. So we're going to say after midnight. I'm copying from right here. And before noon. So that's a.m. time. After midnight and before noon. Then it says use the number line to tell if Roy reads the book at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. and explain. Well, we just talked about that. We said it would definitely be 8 p.m. because 8 p.m. is before bedtime. Oop, you can't see that. Hang on. 8 p.m. because 8 p.m. is before let's make sure. Before bed. Okay. You may need to pause it to finish writing that because I had it hidden for a little bit. Give you another second or two. Okay. Pause it if you need to. When you're finished with that, you're going to work on some things on your own. So you're going to pause the video. Remember, you've got to pause that video. You got to do your work and then check it. So you're going to start with 1. Tom is completing his homework after school at 4:12. Write 4:12 using AM or PM. Then we've got some activities here on the clock. So you're going to write the time. And then you're going to say if it's AM or PM. We've got recess at 1:30. And then you're going to arrive at school at this time. You got to count it up, write it down until if it's AM or PM. So I'm not telling you what time that is because you got to figure that out. Then on the back side, Chantal is waking up for school at this time. What time does she wake up? Write it here and then use AM or PM. If you're going to take off to visit the post office or look for stars in the sky, write those times, AM or PM. And then on number 7, Karina says when she is sleeping at 2, it's PM because it's dark. Is she correct? How do you know? So she's saying at 2 p.m. it's dark outside and she's sleeping. So you get to play teacher here and decide if she's right or if she's not. Okay? All right, so pause the video, work on those 7 questions, and then start the video back up and check your work. Do a good job. See you in a few minutes. Okay. You should be finished answering those questions on your own. If you haven't, pause that video again and finish it up, and then we'll go over the answers. Okay? All right, so let's look at your answers since you have completed all of them, correct? So if you've got Tom and he is completing his homework after school at 4:12, what time would that be? Exactly, that should be 4:12 p.m. So that's what you should have, 4:12 and p.m. after. So now we're going to look at recess and arriving at school. Recess is 1:30. That should be 1:30, that's right, p.m. Then on number 3, you had to do a little extra work on this one because they didn't give it to you as a digital clock. They put it on an analog clock. So you had to figure out what that would be. So you had to count by 5s, or you could have said, well, you know what? I already know from here to here is 30, 35, 40, plus 1 more minute is 41. And my hour hand, well, it's between the 7 and 8. Well, it's not on that 8 yet, so I'm going with 7, so it's 7:41. And if you're going to school, it's going to be a.m. So 7:41 a.m. Okay? Did you get all 3 of those? Good. All right, on the back side. Remember, you can pause it if you need another minute or 2 to check your work. All right, on the back side. Now, we're waking up for school here. At what time on the clock does she wake up? Well, you had to figure out the time here. And you know from here to here is 15, 16, 17. So we got 17 minutes and the hour would be 6. So 6:17, and if she's waking up coming to school, that's definitely going to be a.m. That's what you should have. Visiting the post office. This time is 9, 5:10, so 9:10. And you're probably not going to go to the post office at 9:10 at night because they're not going to be open. So 9:10 a.m. And if you are going to look for stars in the sky, this is 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 1:17. You're definitely going to have to do that at nighttime if you're going to see stars. So that's 1:17 a.m. If it was 1:17 p.m., that would be about the time you are coming back from activity. So you're not going to see a whole lot of stars then. All right, then down at the bottom, Karina says when she is sleeping at 2, it's p.m. Now 2 o'clock p.m. is right before you get dismissed from school each day. It's after 2, but it's in that ballpark. So it's definitely not going to be dark outside, or I hope it's not. So she is not correct because it's dark at 2 a.m., not 2 p.m. So she got her a.m. and p.m. mixed up a little bit there. So remember, when you're writing this out, you don't have to have the exact same words I do, but you have to tell me, no, she's not correct, and you have to tell me why. And you've got to give me some kind of explanation about, well, at 2 a.m. it's dark. 2 p.m. it's not dark outside. Okay? All right. Good job, guys. You have an ed assignment, so work carefully on that. And then next time we're going to look at time intervals. Okay? That means that will be considered elapsed time, or time like you start your favorite show at 2 o'clock. Your favorite show ends at 2:30. How much time has passed? And you would say 30 minutes. So that's kind of what that's about. So we will look at that next time. Good job.